from CBS FM 101.1.
Dan Ingram, proud to be with you every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4. We present 16 Candles, which is the reason that cake is melting in the rain.
To tell over some short intros of records, like Dan Ingram. We'll be writing the history of rock and roll tonight. Where's the Hound Dog's favorite top of the vine wine? Hand me some of my wine. I gotta get a little load on here tonight. I'll be able to really rock and roll. Give me a little bit of my brew. Wailing from the top of the Empire State Building, which is kind of strange when you're in Buffalo. Oh, yeah. Oh, kiss me where the sun don't shine. That would be Cleveland. And St. Louis, too, Mr. Whitney. The Hounds around with the rock and roll, and the very first rock and roll show in history tonight. You got it. It's my little impression of George Lorenz, the Hound Dog, who actually was the first disc jockey to play rock and roll, race music, and Alan Freed copied him and moved on to Cleveland to do it in Cleveland and call himself the Moondog. So then he came to New York, and the Hound Dog was obliterated. And the first guy to make it to New York is the one that killed, because this is the place where most of the people live. I think that's why. I'm not sure. But years later, you know, people kept trying to come in here after Alan Freed, and they wanted to make a little bit of a name for themselves. And it took the mob from St. Louis to come in here and straighten everybody out. So they you know, I mean, ABC, right? Biggest station in the whole city. WABC, ABC Radio, ABC Television, the whole network, and they couldn't get anything going with all their big shot stars, celebrities, everybody they had, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. So they robbed St. Louis, and they went to the Anheuser-Busch Company, I think, and pulled a couple of those disc jockeys on WIL over here, and they put them on the air, and they made WABC a very popular radio station, one of whom was Dan Ingram. And then I think there were two other guys from St. Louis, weren't there, Dan?
No, nobody that mattered, really.
Oh, you're right. Why do I ask?
There was Herb Oscar in the morning, and let's see, who else? Bob Dayton.
Bob, yeah.
Bob was also out of St. Louis, and I'm trying to think of who else
another big guy from St. Louis.
Oh, a guy by the name of Ron Lundy,
I would say, yeah.
Who is now retired and is living in the life of a poltroon in a place called Bruce, Mississippi. He has got Terra redone. And lives there with, he actually lets the townspeople come up on the front porch. He's a very liberal guy. And he's the sweetest man you ever want to know. Yeah.
So 3 out of 7 guys were from St. Louis.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's ever been discussed. I guess.
Well, you know, we washed a lot, so it went away. You know, I mean, you had to take 2 showers a day if you were from St. Louis.
Yeah, and you actually moved then to Connecticut, right, for this Mars production company?
I moved to Mars Broadcasting before I moved to New York.
I see.
I was between St. Louis and New York.
So radio stations needed to have some really sharp-sounding production, so they would call this Mars production company, which was Bob Whitney and Dan Ingram. producing these little.
And Stan Kaplan and a few other very talented people. Yeah.
And you had supplied these little promos.
They were
trailers.
Contests, exactly. It was what we did first, 10 contests a month. And that's how I got to work at WABC, because I had access to the general manager, Hal Neal. And I would bring in these little contests, and he said, "This is garbage, go recut it," that sort of thing. and I would. And I'd come back and talk to him. And finally, one day I said, you need a new afternoon guy. The guy you got on is not very good.
Yeah.
He said, "Who would be good?" I said, "Me." He said, "Get out of my state. Get out of here. Out. I said, "I just happen to have 2 air checks. Listen to these, please." And he called me back, and the next thing I knew, I was working there.
Now, what would one of these contests be?
Supply the missing word in a lyric, could play a clip from a tune, that sort of thing.
Well, tunes weren't sophisticated back then. So
Nah, it was like...
Louie would not have too many missing lyrics.
No, all you had to do was write down 5 vowels, and that's it.
So you got the job. They put you on in the afternoon.
Got the job. They put me on from 3 until 7, and... the wonderful thing was that working at a network-owned station, the contract was set up by AFTRA, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. It was a network contract, and it was set up in 15-minute increments. And everybody made like $50 or $60 for a 15-minute show. And if you did 4 hours, 6 days a week, suddenly you were making $52,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
And that was scale. That was absolute minimum scale. And in those days, you could buy a Cadillac for $3,000.
Did you buy one?
I did.
In New York City? You live in Manhattan with a
El
Cadillac?
Dorado convertible Cadillac.
Where'd you go with it?
Out to Oyster Bay, where I lived.
Oh.
So, back and forth. It was it's called commuting, if you remember that.
Yeah, but...
I don't do that anymore. I live in the city.
Yeah.
I don't commute.
Now, when you were on the radio, I think...
I still am. I work at CBS FM. I'm not dead yet.
I don't mean it that way.
What is this big needle with formaldehyde you're sticking in my butt?
That's not formaldehyde. That's Imus's old heroin.
Cold. You got a great streak of cold, I tell you.
All right, so you had this great career going, but the rest of the city didn't catch on yet.
It took 9 months.
Yeah.
9 months I went from number 12 to number 1.
Now, did it not take also the blackout?
No, the blackout was later.
But you were successful.
Long before the blackout.
All right.
Yeah, blackout was suddenly everything started to slow down. Because in those days, the tape machines were hooked up to 60-cycle current.
Oh.
And when the current started going down, they started going down too. And then at 5:27 in the middle of a newscast, poof, and we're gone. That was it. They gave me an armload of LPs and said, "Get in the car," because the only place in New York City that had power was Lodi, New Jersey, where we had our transmitter.
Right.
So we were on the air. And I was on the air till 4:30 in the morning doing my first talk show. I invented talk radio and WABC. We had nothing else to do. We didn't have a turntable. I got an armload of records and no turntable. And I was broadcasting out of the transmitter shack.